Dear students of class 9, this is your subject history and here the third chapter name is Jainism and Buddhism. From the third chapter, today's lesson is sources, Angas, under the sources Angas, Tripitakas and Jatakas. And next subheading is causes for the rise of Jainism and Buddhism. Now, before going through the textbook, that as per council syllabus, you have to know the scope from each and every chapter. Now the scope from this chapter, the sources, under the sources Angas, Tripitakas and Jatakas briefly mentioned. Next, causes for the rise of Jainism and Buddhism in the 6th century BCE, and the last scope from this chapter, that is doctrines. Now here the introduction of the chapter, the 6th century BC is the landmark in Indian history. Now here you have to know why the 6th century BC is very important. Remember students, after the Indus Valley civilizations, Aryan came to India and they spreaded their society in all over India. In the later Vedic age, the Aryan introduced the caste Brahmanas, and those Brahmana, they started their bad rituals, expensive rituals. Those rituals are not supported by the common people. The common people were unhappy. They were finding some religion. Those religions can save them from the Brahmanas. So these are the causes for the rise of Jainism and Buddhism. Now we will go through the content. First, that you know, source is very important for each chapter. Now here the first source is the Angas. So from the Angas, question can come, write a short note about the Angas, or question can come, state the importance of the Angas in the 6th century BCE. Now 5 points I will give you from the Angas. Point number 1, the original teachings of Vardhamana Mahavira, the founder of Jainism, were compiled in 14 books called the Purvas. Very important objective also, name the founder of Jainism. Point number 2, this body of knowledge was transformed into 12 new books called the Angas, which form the most important part of Jain literature. Point number 3, there are 12 Upanga Agams which are explanation to the Angas. Point number 4, these have been written in Ardha Magadhi and Prakrit language. Point number 5, from those writings we can get to know much about the period between the 6th and the 4th centuries BCE. So these are the importance of the Angas. Next, the Tripitaka. Same question can come. Write a short note about Tripitaka or the importance of Tripitaka. Tripitaka, point number 1. Tripitaka means the 3 baskets. Tripitaka compiled with 3 books, that is Sutta Pitaka, Vinaya Pitaka and the Abhidhamma Pitaka. Next point, point number 2. The Vinaya Pitaka contains rules and regulation of monastic life. Point number 3. The Sutta Pitaka contains the saying of Lord Buddha. And point number 4, the Abhidhamma Pitaka contains the interpretation of Buddhist doctrines. The last point, point number 5, the Tripitaka is considered the encyclopedia of Buddhist culture. It is written in Pali, and remember students, it means the Tripitaka was composed after the death of Lord Gautam Buddha. Now the Jatakas, same question can come like Angas and Tripitaka. Importance of the Jatakas, a short note about the Jatakas. The 5 points from the Jatakas. The Jatakas are the stories of Buddha's previous lives. There are about 550 such stories about the life of Buddha in his previous births. This is point number 1. Point number 2. Through the Jatakas, we get an idea of the social and economic life during the 3rd and 4th centuries BCE. Next point, point number 3. The Jataka tales teach about moral values. Point number 4. The stories of Jatakas written in Pali language. Point number 5, the subjects from these stories were frequently used in sculpture on the railings of stupas and in paintings throughout the Buddhist world. So students, these were the sources of 6th century BCE for the rise of Jainism and Buddhism. Now next scope is very important scope, and here one question also, state the causes for the rise of Jainism and Buddhism. So here are 5 subheadings, each subheading, each point. So you have to write subheading also and explanation also. Now, point number 1 means subheading number 1, Supremacy of Priests. Here you will understand why the Buddhism and Jainism means Gautam Buddha and Mahavira rise in Indian society. The first point, Supremacy of Priests. The Brahmanas in the later Vedic period had been considering themselves to be the supreme power by virtue of their high social status. They began to dominate the social structure and claim certain privilege, and people were unhappy with those priests. So this is the another cause to rise up Jainism and Buddhism. Number 2, rigid caste system, second subheading. In the 6th century BC, the caste system had become very rigid and it led to growing social inequalities and exploitation of the lower classes by the people of the higher classes. The Sudras were considered to be the untouchable and were ill-treated and harassed, and people were unhappy with the caste systems. That's why Buddhism and Jainism arise in this situation. Next subheading is animal sacrifice. The animal sacrifice and yajnas means like a mantra, rituals, that type of rituals which had become an important part of some Hindu rituals, also caused financial problems to the common man. And this type of animal sacrifice and unnecessary rituals, people not happy with that type of system. So people wanted a religion that was simple in form, easy to follow and economical to practice. Answer is Jainism and Buddhism. This type of problem easily can solve by the Gautam Buddha and Mahavira. This is the cause to rise of Jainism and Buddhism. Next, point number 4, complicated and expensive ritualism. The Brahmanical system had become too ritualistic and complicated. It failed to satisfy the spiritual needs of the common people. The ceremonies had become so complex that the common man was left at the mercy of the priest. This was one of the important causes that gave rise to comparatively simple and inexpensive faiths that could be easily understood and followed by the common man. Here the subheading is language, the last subpoints. Now language problem also the important problem for the common people, because the Brahmana that time they used the Sanskrit language, and Sanskrit language was very tough for the common people. But Gautam Buddha and Mahavira came and they started their speech with the common people language, that means Pali and Prakrit language. So the language used during rituals was Sanskrit, which was difficult for the common man to understand. That's why people can't understand the Sanskrit language, and they supported the Buddhist and Jain teachings because they were delivered in the language used by the common people, Pali and Prakrit respectively. So these are the background causes for the rise of Jainism and Buddhism. These 5 subheadings with explanation. Now students, if you have any queries, you can comment below the video in comment section. Thank you students.